Wow. As a woman, I feel like I was not invited to this at all. Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield and I'm a professional dance choreographer and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we are here taking a look at a Patreon request. Shout out to Shelby for the request. This is OnlyOneOf's track libidO. I believe I pronounced that correctly. Now, I have been warned multiple times by multiple people on Patreon, as well as on YouTube, that this is very spicy. So as an American with a Western music entertainment lens, I have seen a lot of things that are spicy. So I can only imagine what this is. I knew this was coming. We have 3 different things to look at today: music, video, dance practice, and a performance version, meaning that they push into the concept even more, is what I was told. And so I am intrigued by this. I'm bracing myself for sensual activity here. I don't know really what I'm getting myself into, but we're gonna do the best and look at the choreography and the art of it. So without further ado, let's get into it. I do know the members were in charge of the like they were a part of the choreography. How can he play basketball with his hair down like that? It's that phrase, I want you to sing on my body. Wow. As a woman, I feel like I was not invited to this at all. Oh, I'm laughing because I don't know how to feel. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do it. This is the guilty pleasure version. I don't know what that means. Like, I think, if I'm being honest, I think because I was bracing myself, I was catching so many more nuances, which is what made me like, you know what I mean? In comparison to if I just did a blind watch. I don't know if it would if it would feel that way, but also I feel like I'm not as desensitized as I used to be to Western music, because a lot of what I look at and listen to, what I look at music video visual wise is in the K-pop scene. And so I think if anything, it's kind of the opposite, like seeing something that has that Western like feel to it where they're like, oh, they went there. It's like, oh, I'm not expecting that on a K-pop reaction as much, right? Like, of course, you look at people like Hyolyn. Like, I'm like expecting it, but also she has that Western flair, but it's done like in a Western way. This is not, if that makes sense, which also makes it, I don't know. I'm used to it with soloists. I'm not used to it with groups. I think it's that. Maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to process. Maybe I need to wait till I watch this, but okay. Breathe. Here we go. So this is like I guess a performance version, ultimately. We're missing some fabric. It's that. It's that. It's where their hands are going. We're not quite there at that part yet, but it's coming. At least twice. It says girl. Woo. Okay. I think I handled that quite well. I think so. Yeah. I think the music video, I think with the visuals too, like, and what they chose to keep in the music video, right? Do you know what I mean? Like those parts. Okay. We have a dance practice. Is it fixed cam? Will that be better? Like, will I be able to like... Maybe? Yeah? We're not showing skin. I don't know. We'll see. It's clean. You see how like on the sides they're like, that's just another day in rehearsal. Oh goodness. I'm curious why my guidance center did not have a band. What's the word? Like in his hair's better than mine. I swear I thought it was a wig. Goodness. They're like, look how cute we are, no, boys. Okay, I will say this is also like this is a reason why I think it was a good call for me, alongside, of course, Patreon was a really big help in this decision of watching music videos with dance practices. I know you guys are probably thinking, Jess, what do you mean? You used to not? Yes, way back in the marathon side of things, I would only look at dance practices, so I wasn't influenced by a narrative on the music video. But I like the fact that it does provide more context, which is why I started doing it. I think it was, I don't even remember what my first group was. Was it Stray Kids? Maybe, on my marathon list. There was a ton that I had not looked at their music videos, and I marathon all of them in one go. Whew, those are like marathons. Looking at 3 hours worth of music videos is a lot. It was still very fun though. I think like watching the music video first a lot of times helps like set you up to understand the choreography. Now, would you be able to get it across without the music video? I think in a lot of cases, yes, but it wasn't some of the choices weren't as aggressive to me, or was it because I've already watched it 3 times? It could also be that. The music video though, whoo, goodness, yeah. Like I had said before, I was not invited to the chat. Even though they said girl, no, they weren't talking to me. Anyway, so I find that to be pretty interesting, right? So, some thoughts. There is a certain part in the choreography here. I actually want to touch on it first while I have the thought. It's a little duo moment. This one right here, watch. Talking about fantasy, and it looks like they're using the band, like whatever that, like the ribbon, as a measuring tape's what that feels like, right? To me, that actually feels like it's tying similarly physically here, like how BTS's track War of Hormone, the lyrics felt there, right? Where it kind of feels, I don't know, this feels lustful, if I'm being honest, right? Which is probably why it's like, I felt so bashful watching it as an individual with social and relational anxiety. Feeling this confident about myself in this way is so not what goes on in my brain. Would that be a goal one day to be like, here I am? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to like buy a house. Like, you know, I'm just trying that first and then we're going from there. And I have like friends. Maybe I'll look for a boyfriend and at some point that would be cool, I guess. But even then I'm like, can we be friends too? Like, I don't know. Like, I maybe hold hands on a great day. I'm so shy when it comes to that kind of stuff. So like, that's why I was prepared, but just seeing it too also was just like, it took me a second. But it does feel pretty lustful. I do also feel that there are people who probably relate to this. I am not one of those people, and that's okay. I also think it's just interesting, like how it does give the sense of like bondage, which does remind me of like dominant submissive kind of recreational activities that people do with, you know, leashes and ribbons and blindfolds of the like, right? Now they only do like a cover up at the end, right? But they use the ribbon quite often and they use a lot of like tying wrists and things. So I am just so curious. Did they get this passed for music shows? Like, I'm gonna go Google. Hold on. They were on a music show. I'm actually surprised by that because I was thinking about recently I just looked at Stress by Chungha but the demo. So Love Ron being Chungha. And there were some things that Love Ron was doing. I was like, girl, you're trying to get her not able to promote this song on the music shows. But seeing that they didn't really change choreo when the one that I looked at just offhand, then okay, like that makes sense. I also come from the position where, like, for me, I did hear they did receive some criticism for the choreography being too sensual. I think part of it comes from, are they all adults? And was it their own choice? Was it a conscious in the know, knowledge-based decision that they chose to do it? They're part of the choreography. And I did hear that they even were told to tone it down a bit, right? Now, my real question is this. If this song is about, you know, exploring sexuality, do these individuals actually relate and they're physically like showcasing their own experiences, or are they playing a character? That's what I find curious, because I know there's some people who really are in that area of their lives, right? So for me, I've never really like worked through that kind of exploration. I've always really liked guys. I've always been a straight woman. But I do know not everybody has that same experience, right? So I just have a lot of questions about those types of things. So Shelby, since you requested, if you can give me kind of on Patreon in the comments, if you could let me know, or personal message, a little bit more about that. If that information is out there, I don't know, but I do know this did change the trajectory of the group. And if you think about it, X-Love they're not teasing in this sense, but they are pursuing more of a feminine choreography structure, right? And for me, I'm always one to advocate against double standards, right? Like, I really am not a fan when people are gonna be so like this with one thing and not with the other when it's basically the same thing. When you see girl groups handle really masculine choreographies, I find it interesting that people are all of a sudden very anti-men doing feminine movement whenever women doing masculine movement is okay. I think part of it, though, comes from culture of the movement that they're doing. I think that, and also, like, it's all about the vocabulary and the intention in the culture and community. I think that's a really big thing. So I'm not even really going to say this is a quote-unquote double standard. I do think if people are upset, if people are totally fine with minors debuting in the K-pop scene and they're doing suggestive choreography, they need to shut their mouths about this. Like, in my humble opinion, I've always been an advocate against minors debuting in the public eye because I don't trust people and I don't trust companies. I don't feel like the members should have to be the ones to advocate and protect themselves from the company when the company, that needs to be their job. So that's why there's been more negative than positive when you see minors debut, always. And that's why I'm always against that. But in this case here, I do believe they're all adults and they all had knowledge going in that they wanted to do this. So it's your choice, right? So let's actually talk about the choreography. It's pretty clean. If you're going to do a concept, regardless if it's something so suggestive like this or something very culturally accepted, right? I feel that with both, the cleaner your choreography is, to a certain extent, can allow the audience or who you want to see it be able to, receive your intention as accurately as possible. It's about accuracy, right? So that's something that they definitely have, boom, thumbs up for. They're pretty clean on it. So much so, it kind of draws you back in what they're choosing to showcase, right? Commitment to character is great if that's what they're choosing to do. I think in most sense of things, if this is an empathetic experience for them, I don't believe it's with each other. Does that make sense? Or I don't know any of that information, but here we go. So the grab, we're immediately starting with something pretty suggestive, right? So the bondage situation, we also have some subtlety of the head going on in the upper body, in the upper level. And then we do a little speed change to come out of it. He does a subtle little shoulder to rotate around. And then we have the little hit on the, This, I would say, in their performance quality, if you eliminate the bondage, if you eliminate where the hands are going in traces, this is about as sensual in performance quality as I would say if you've looked at In Hyphen, if you've seen some really, I would say even Team's got some sensual notes to some of their stuff with Deer Hunter, right? You see with 10, with Taman, a lot of those types of realms. I would even throw X Love in there. A lot of it comes from performance up here. Now, are those groups that I mentioned, are they pulling this specific concept? Not 100%, or this wouldn't be as much of an outlier as it is. But I will say though, we can't talk about this one and talk about the nuances of it. When you take some of these things away and you just look at least in the first verse, you eliminate that bondage. If you look at the structure of it, it does have that. It does give, because of the fits, I think that plays a role too. It gives a boy crush sensual tease about it, but not the same way as like in the bedroom. Does that make sense? Which a lot of groups that you guys have seen also have shown that as well. So we have the situation there. They do a little reverb and they have different directions they go. They take their arms and they place it out and they go in and he pulls it from the ribbon and he lowers his level, takes the chin up and then lifts as well. So it makes it feel like a subtle fixed point there. So we do a little ball change. We're now all facing directionally to the outside. Still have your feature in center. They hit it, boom, over. He moves to the front. So they take their arm, look at it, and then they frame their head to the front. And then we do a little shampoo around, and then they end up all changing. You get to a new spot. Looks like windows. When I talk about windows, you have your groupings of people here, and then you have these empty spaces behind them. And when people fill them, those are called standing. This is a windowed formation, or you can call it, zigzag formation or whatever. Also, side note too, some people may be wondering what these lines are. Good chance it's like a number line is what my guess would be. I don't know, maybe this here too. Sometimes when you see tape on the ground, it could be in reference to stage dimensions. A lot of times when you see a lot of highlighted tape, like yellow and orange and like neon, and they're in different types of shapes, good chance it could be a prop that's there for concert, a stair step, like stairs to go down, a place where the platform's going to rise and lower. So a lot of times in those really big black rooms that you see for concert venues, or when you see on the Mnet survival shows, that's normally what those tapes are for, is to help block or make sure people have an idea of how much space they have to operate and work with for concerts. So that could be one of many things. It looks like it's been there for a hot minute. So good chance. I mean, it could just be helping with your basic staging, making sure you have your lines just like you have the lines on the walls. Maybe that, or it could also be those are just the remnants of this tape. This is how they block. They block in blocks. They don't block on the lines. Or maybe they have the lines up as a secondary reference. I don't know. First time, not really first time, but it's like my first time like talking through what this could hypothetically be in the dance practice space. It's fun to talk about though. So lift the arms up. and they snap down with the chest. They rotate with the hips too to help kind of low-key complement with the chest. But the chest is the primary there. We have our next feature traveling forward. The windows are nice, good spacing because it allows there for everybody to go through, and you maintain spacing, meaning that the space between those that stood still and those that were transitioning. And so then they've made a triangle formation. I don't get to talk about a triangle as much as I do about a pyramid and a V. So a V is having everybody in two diagonals that connect with a point. When you have a pyramid, it's a filled in triangle. This is a triangle. It's not filled in because you don't have a person in the middle, right? So that's a triangle. Very ugly one that I've made, but theirs is much cleaner. And they're mirrored. I would say my guy right here in this button up could scoot up just a smidge, because that's the beauty of a grid like this, is that you can see where his feet are. They're hanging out right there at the corner. And then my guy right here is near the back of his. So that's why you can tell just based off of depth that he's looking closer to my guys back here, and he's looking a little bit more like we're having a triangle. Like we have a triangle here, triangle, and then the goal is for this triangle to look a little bit further up and symmetrical. So it's not quite there, but once again, for one take dance practice, that's a fixed cam. I pick my battles on that. It could be just circumstance. You deal with that all the time. So we have some subtlety with the switch off on that. We have our center. He's pressing forward. I will say this dance practice did not make me as shy as the music video and the performance version. I think part of it comes from camera angles. I think that where the camera forces you to look at certain vantage points, and a lot of times when you have certain pulses happen with the camera and with certain movements, I would say in the course as an example, when they're dropping, that kind of gives a certain, I don't know, intention behind it, or it enhances, which is what I say a lot of times. That's why I prefer a fixed cam when I look at choreography. Does the choreography stand true to the intensity that they're trying to present? In some cases, yes, and in some cases, it just feels like a typical K-pop boy crush, angsty, sensual tease choreo, right? That's a lot of adjectives, but there's a lot of groups out there that do this style, and you have a lot of girl groups that do a lot of like a seductive style with when you think red dress, cocktail dress, you're gonna see that, right? I'd say AOA is an example of that kind of concept. Now, the difference is, did AOA choose to go that concept, or is that something the company put on them as a change so they make more money? I know that was the case with Exit. And then here, this really do think this was a conscious decision they made together. I don't know if it was a push from the company or what, but they did contribute to the choreo, so I know they had a conscious decision to partake in it, right? So anyway, there's your tension on that. They do a little body roll out of it. So he's saying still little drop down tease. A lot of it comes from the face, right? A lot of winks, a lot of like a lot of times people can speak louder with actions than words. So sometimes people have a conversation with just their eyes where they look. Those little things, those can be just as teasy. And that's why I'm saying this is not so far-fetched if you eliminate just a couple things compared to other choreographies. So then they go into the two columns into a reveal. That was a really interesting reveal because you really didn't see them at all. So that just shows you how clean the columns were. I think it was 3 of them that we saw, right? To a reveal. Then we have a little trio here. Then we have these 2 outliers on each respective side. They melt down and they take the arms up to the base of the head. It goes right there to the neck. Now he does a little cross there. If you have arthritis, good luck to you on trying to do this. But I like the subtlety of that. That also reminds me of Deer Hunter by Ann Team. So is there a connection? At least on like the maybe not, but I would just look to see if there's a choreography overlap. Choreographer team, I don't know, but like I said, they also choreograph this. Of Ann Team, they do a lot of these, like they do this kind of situation, but they ticked it. So this is not new to me in these sequences, but it's just because of my saturation on what I've looked at material wise out of order of dates. So I can't even tell you who did what first. It doesn't matter. This right here, it's cool. I like the subtlety of that, right? So we end up walking into a new spot, and then we have 2 diagonals, and we have a little trio. Notice, once again, we are framing to the outside. So that's kind of a thing I'm noticing a lot with this group, which I think there's nothing inherently wrong with. It's just a fingerprint of a formation or dynamic choice. Just like with Gravity, they have that, I call it the bingo Gravity formation, where you have that group of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the 2, 2. The 2 diagonals, when I marathon them, that's like that showed up in every single choreo, which didn't bother me. I thought that was really fun. So that's just something I'm noticing with OnlyOneOf, is this not particular formation, but the dynamic of going outside, inside. But so many groups do it, and that's fine. It's all in what you do in content with it, right? So then you do a little body roll to get them to punch that leg out with the arm, and then they end up doing a little run. That's a freaking basket run. I wasn't expecting that on a routine like this. So that's a note I will give this, is the basket run. It kind of takes you out of it because you're trying to focus on center, right? That didn't distract me. The only thing I would say that I appreciate about it is the fact that they got off at the same time. But I really do think just a walk off would have been just as effective. Probably a little bit easier and more convincing that way. So they get to their spot. Is it because they needed to get to their spot quickly? Maybe. But they could have rushed to their spot when they get off stage. We have dancers do that all the time. So he travels the energy over, and then they do a slow walk. That's not a basket run. It's not even a basket walk because they were on tempo and they matched it. So they go up. So that was an add-on that we saw there from center with everybody else. We go here. There's their shh, right? Not the first time we've seen that. We have not seen, it's not the only time we've seen people on their knees either. It's this pulsing in context to this libidO. Like it's talking about, it's sexual, right? It's talking about sexual desire. I think that's what that means, right? I think that's what I heard. But yeah. And then they're doing this little crawl there. Have we seen groups do that before? Yes, we have. That's not new. It's all about context too, right? We always have to remember that. That wouldn't be as something that catches people as much off guard if the concept wasn't as seductive as what they are being very clear on, right? So it's all about clarity. They're showcasing, they're not shying away from it. And if you're wanting to call a track like this and you're wanting to showcase a concept like this, to a certain extent, you would want to essentially showcase movement that reflects that. Now, do I recommend minors doing this? Hell no, I don't. Like this, I would have a huge red flag waving and I would have major concerns. They're adults, so they have the freedom of choice to do it. Now, does that mean that I would want to do this choreo? No, I wouldn't, but I've already expressed this has nothing to do with me, right? I'm looking at the choreography composition, not my personal preference on what I feel like the luckiest unicorn in the world to have the privilege of learning this choreography. No, I would be too shy. Where would I do it? And I have dancers that are my students that watch me, and I am under contract at studios that I can't showcase a provocative image. And I'm not really a provocative person to my knowledge either. So, but that's not, who am I to say that they should or shouldn't do it if they're adults with the freedom of choice? Or the company that gives them that ability, right? So I think that's why being an analyst is fun, because a lot of it is my opinion, but a lot of it is also, let's look at what's the choreography, what's the intention of it, do they match it, what is it awkward? No. Do they have good showmanship on it? Yeah. Am I surprised they were able to do this on the music show? Yeah. So I find it really fun to talk through, if anything, right? So they do the traces. A really fascinating thing about this one is where the hands go. The hands matter. They're not stylized, but it's all about where they're going, right? So they trace up the thigh and through the chest, and they end up bringing it through with the elbow knock up. Take the arms, help pushing them back, allows the chest to push more forward, showcases more openness. They take the hand, they bring it around, and then they bleed those arms out. Then they throw and they toss to the side, they go out in, and then they go to the floor. Then they go bounce forward and back, and they hit it through, and then we have that was a really interesting foot choice with the finger, and it has that da-da sound, so if you listen to that, watch. Da-da. I think there was a twist, like a heel to the outside. Da-doom. That was cool. I like the subtlety of the ISO and the complements of the finger to the leg. It's cool. And it goes, duh. We finish it out. We do a nice little open here with the elbows kind of chilling, and then we move to a new spot. And then they're all putting their arms behind their back. It ties into the intro. So now we have, this part is what I find interesting. This is the one part where I'm like, it kind of feels like we're taking possession of someone in comparison to like, there's nothing healthy about this relationship, right? Like I'm saying, when you're like, you're my fantasy, I don't want to be someone's fantasy. I want to be like a human, like they see me as a human with qualities that that they're willing to work on with me, with how messy of a human I am, and personality, emotions, and the physical awkwardness of being in a relationship, right? that's my one thing about this. If that was their intention, it's like sexual desire, I think placates way more towards the lust avenue than like healthy courting, let's hold hands and talk about our future. It's like, no, I want you now. Very primitive, right? Primal, very animalistic. It feels like that, right? And so I think if that's what they were wanting to go for, then they were showing that pretty well, where it's like, I handpick you as a fantasy, right? Like, it definitely feels like a pick of the litter, ultimately, with the walk back, right? Partnering from there, we turn him, and then he goes, he has his arms behind him, then he ends up dropping in that part. Do you see what I mean? Once again, I'm not saying is that right or wrong. We're not talking about the moral code on measuring somebody's leg and saying, you're my fantasy, you hit all of this criteria for my dream, right? That's not what like we're covering here. We're talking about that's what it presents to me with my particular, background. Is that what their intention was? I don't know. I would assume maybe so. But also here, I'm kind of expressing why I think that way based on what they've shown us in Paper Trail of other parts of the choreo, as well as the track and background information I've learned, right? So none of this, it's just analyzing the choreography and seeing, does it work? Now, it's also interesting here where his hand placement is. A lot of times you would see people stop at the thigh, but that's one thing. It's one of the first, I think we do it twice. First time we're grabbing like right where the butt is, right? So that's like we're going there, but also see where he's hooking. It goes under the pelvis. It doesn't go around the thigh, which is why it feels so seductive and sensual, because it's a very sensitive area for a lot of people, right? So that's why that, and they zoomed in there on the music video too, like they showed that as a choreography moment that can really catch you off guard, because you're not expecting that. You expect people to be more reserved on camera, right? So anyway, so they walk across, I actually find it a smart choice choreographically to wait to break the position until everybody transitions across. So that was interesting, right? So they rotate the wrists around, they present. I like the wave. I love me a good standard wave. That was cool. Now what do we do after that? We wave, yep, and then we bring in do-do-dum. So we take our knees nice and quick, that do-do-dum sound in the music, we hit and we press the arms down. Cool. Yeah, and then we have some subtlety here, the little punches with the shoulders. I like that, how we're hitting the bass as well. The pull around is interesting. He takes it and he traces across. The walk is nice. They take it over, rotate around and down. You have a feature in center, a little breath out of that too. And then they go walk. Notice it said every other, where every other are propped up, and low. Once again, not a basket run or basket walk because we're on tempo with the legs. And then he has this little moment here. What's he saying in lyrics? Forgot, but it's life. Okay. Rotate around and down, and they take the leg and they bring it out and in. Yep, sing on my body. That is such a shyful thing. Like, I will probably not do that, and that's okay. I don't think any of you guys are expecting me to do any of these things on camera, and that's fine. We're here to talk about it, but you guys are expecting me to look at them do it, though, right? I think it's funny. I do believe this is the guy that Shelby was telling me about his hair, because she did mention that. So I see it. It's wild behavior over here, for real. Yeah, I'm very it doesn't look real, but it is, right? Does he have extensions in? Hold on. Couldn't quite find out if these were extensions, but I did find out. Shelby was great about telling me that looking at the description of the music videos can be very insightful. Just like for me, looking at teasers for certain groups allows me the ability to understand more lore information. Sometimes descriptions play a huge role as well. And so I will say one component, firstly, one of the lyrics is the lip balm you gave me is in reference to Savannah, which is their debut track, which we've already had the privilege of looking at. And then with how when you try to suppress, the more aggressive it can become. I can kind of see that in the structure. It gets more aggressively sensual and handsy, and if that makes sense. Not quite saying that sounds really bad if I say that out of context. Some people watch me, and the quotes that they hear me say, if it is out of context, they sound wild. So I'm so sorry if you just skimmed this and you just heard me say that. but it does feel like we have a lot more contact with the body and we have a lot more connection with each other to a certain extent. Like, I'm not going to say that's what's happening, but I can see the crescendo of involvement or intensity of the push on these sensual movements more so in the later half, especially from verse 2 is when you really can feel it more than the very beginning tease of the intro, right? So I do see that. So they pull, and they go, body roll, boom, da-da-da-doom. They syncopate with the arms, and then they end up pulsing. Now, they're ending up, instead of dropping, like they are dropping, but they're stopping the knees instead of dropping the hips, which is what the camera looked like they were doing, but they're actually accenting from the shoulders. That's why this move doesn't feel as, lustful, right? Sexual here as it did in the music video, right? So if you're like, Jess, why is this sexual? I feel like if this made you feel a certain way, like uncomfortable, or it made you feel shy, or it made you feel certain things, I would feel like it's okay to assume what you think that feels like to you. I don't want to be somebody that teaches you about these types of things. I would love for a trusted adult in your life to do so. I'm here for dance, not for life stuff. But anyway, that's, I guess we can learn some things, but I don't want to talk about that here. But anyway, so we're here, travel down and they grab down. Watch me be like so wrong, and that's not what they intended, but their hand says otherwise. Yeah, but they end up having, like, look, they're moving. This gives that like leash effect, right? They weren't able to have the ribbon be used there, which I find interesting. I'm not here suggesting they do. I'm just, because of the arm out and them crawling, it gives the, like, I'm controlling you. It's like, it has a lot of that, if that makes sense. Could it be talking about the suppression? I don't know. The body roll out of it, the toss, they take the arm, toss it down, switch. I like the twists of the leg with the head ISO on that. They take the arms up. There's your another little bondage imagery moment. Now they're not using the ribbon, but they're using the connection. We see this a lot in boy group choreos, a lot. So anytime you see this, a lot of times we do subconsciously tie it to a bondage situation, especially if it's a more seductive track. So they just don't have the ribbons. Don't worry, they bring them out. And so they travels the arm forward, face the head up, and then they drop. Very simple add-on, but effective because of the speed change and tension. Some of us are grabbing our thigh. It could just be an accent or just where the hand was circumstantially. I don't know. But now we have another moment. So this, it feels like we've amplified what we saw in the verse 2 section, right? So it's like, sometimes you see people get measured. They put their arms out like that. Like, we're not measuring anymore. It's like we're worshiping a little bit, if that makes sense. I don't know. Then he goes and he takes the arm up. They're all like, oh no, but they've practiced this. They probably choreographed it. That's whatever. So they crawl and they pull in. We didn't fully commit there like we did in the music video, right? Are we? I don't know. Anyway, but he takes it and grabs. So he's actually grabbing probably underneath the belly button. He's not grabbing full on crotch, but his arm is there, right? So I'm saying the hand is not technically touching there, but man, does that give you a lot of thoughts, right? We don't see people do this, right? This is very, very, very spicy. If I saw one of my dancers do that, we would be having a meeting with their parents, because I do work with minors. So like I'm saying, adults here, okay? And then he ends up going, does he fully drop to a trace? I don't know. I'm not him. That's life, right? So sometimes when you go up and then he traced it down the leg, there you go. But hey, people saw what they saw. They're okay. We go in, they do a little grab close to each other on that, and then pushes him away. Goodness. Once again, not a healthy relationship where they're going in and out. For me, I wouldn't want somebody to grab my face like that and pull me in that quickly. I'm like, yo, space. Firstly, ask would be great. And secondly, you don't know if I did my makeup. You don't know if I just washed my face and now you got your cooties all over my face. I gotta wash it again. You know what I mean? I feel those are the questions that I would ask. I always do that when we look at stuff. We're like, realistically, would that be something I'd want somebody to do to me, regardless if it's, whatever circumstance? personally no, but also they're not asking my opinion. They're living their life, and I'm just here talking about the commitment. It just shows you the commitment to what they're doing. For the fact that it makes me ask those questions because of the realness of it, right? Of, yeah, like how they have it phrased. So now we have it every other. We have some openings here. They end up knee sliding out of it, which is a really nice way to get them to quickly transition in front of that duo that we saw to get into our arms. The clap there, over, a little heel twist on that, and then we pull it back, tension, so our arms going forward and our body going back helps make it feel a little bit more full in the choice, right? So then they reset. I like that, where they have the levels drop a little bit more on that. He does a little double bounce on it to showcase himself as a feature because no one else is doing the double bounce on that. Bring it through, a little heel twist out of it, and then knee slide. I'm sorry, that's not a knee slide. There's no knees in sight. They bend the knee to allow the slide to happen. Nice, and tension is a huge thing. Tension speed changes really help you focus on tension muscle control, which helps. It feels slow mode, which also feels like you're seeing more details that way, right? I take the arms up, good height. I mean, I would say like everybody did a pretty good job on staying pretty close together on that. They hit it out in, take the arms, rotate them, and using the body to to pick up, and then they take the arms out, boom, they take it, and they press it out. It's a subtle fixed point, rotating the arms back up, they slide down, up. A lot of that is our transition with our hinge low high, which is totally fine. Now we have our arm pressed up, like what we've seen before. Now this is giving more of like a spearhead, so it's like a point with a little situation there, so it's like an arrow. I think you can call it that too. There's your body roll. And now, instead of it being the pulse on the ground, mostly with shoulders, but camera says other, they have the ribbon. Now, I did ask the question, why did he not have the ribbon in this take? Can't believe we're going back to this. It is spicy, right? So we're here, go through, this. He doesn't have one. So I'm curious why he doesn't have one here, but he does in the dance practice. Was that just something that, you know, we just didn't have that day? That's whatever. It just makes me curious. Normally he would have it in the music video and not here. I don't know. Anyway, so he takes it around. Maybe they added it later. Take the arms up. And then they end up tracing it, but I think they just let it go. That's whatever. So we do a tension. Once again, they hold and boom, tension. Remember when I said that 10 puts the 10 in tension? Like, this is stuff that, I mean, I'm not unfamiliar with seeing because of some other artists, but I'm normally used to seeing this kind of stuff with soloists. Like I said, like I'm not used to a group committing to it, which is what makes it very interesting to look at, right? Because we're so used to like a soloist having this type of charisma and stage presence and exploration of movement. But getting a whole group to do it is harder, honestly. So that's why I think this is very fascinating to look at from a group, which is why it also catches you off guard, because it's a collective push, which also like a collective saturation in comparison to just a soloist, right? But very interesting. But yeah, having your feature over, he has this tension moment, and then everybody comes up, so we'll add on, which is nice, and then he goes in, so he goes down first, they go in, and then they all join together. Yep, so goes here, and then they trace down, just like we saw in the first course. The punch is nice. So they do a little head on that too, and they punch it, and then they end up sweeping the leg around, and they take it up and then present it. And then he does a little rotation on it through, which is fine, and he comes back up. Oh, and so they go out. Once again, they're like, oh, hi there, how are ya? Good to see ya. And they all melt, and then the little zigzag effect is actually pretty cool. This reminds me of a start for another routine of theirs. Is it Dora Maar or something? I feel like I've seen this formation before, but I can't place where. Savannah, somewhere, I don't know. That's whatever though. But this was really interesting. I'm glad we finally took a look at it, because I was warned that this existed from the first time I learned of their name, right? So, this is such an interesting like roller coaster perspective that I've had with this group that we don't get to touch on with other groups, which I always find to be fascinating, and the conversations are always just as interesting too. So Shelby, thank you so much, and those of you who are fans of OnlyOneOf, please say a special thank you to Shelby, who's been requesting OnlyOneOf for us to take a look at on Patreon. That's why we have the ability to look at this, and so I'm really thankful to Shelby and to you guys who also tune in to watch this to kind of hear my perspective from my scope and lens, because I'm not the, I don't claim to be somebody who's like a fantastic choreographer with all these credentials and I've worked with all these people, but I am somebody who really does really like looking at movement quality over a period of time and talking through what pros and cons people can experience on living life as a dancer, but also as a teacher, and also as people who are touching on different styles that their bodies are used to or not used to. So this was a very, very fun talk to talk about. Y'all know me, I know you. I'm Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.